another level. So then when we see something, you know, the Bible says that we should be sad when they're born into this earth. So Brother Jerry comes to church. Brother Jerry started coming to church. He starts coming to church and he got a sentence of 9 months in jail. They found another warrant for him. They take him to another place and they give him another 9 months. And he says, Pastor Vic, my son is going to be born while I'm in jail. So his wife was coming after he was arrested. Finally, she got so big, she says, I can't come. I can't bring my 2 boys and be pregnant and go back and forth. She says, but when I have the baby. The morning that Sister Yuma's sister passed away was the morning that Brother Jerry's son was born. But the baby was so stressed that they took him to another room and began to do things to this little boy to lower his stress levels, and they didn't let the mom see him. She calls me, she says, Pastor Vic, I just had my baby. They won't let me see him. He's so stressed. He did these things in the womb, and he's sick, and I can't see him. I said, Lord, what are you doing? I said, he says, you are looking at this so wrong. You are looking at this with your own eyes. You are doing this on your own strength. You are doing this with your own emotion. You're doing it all wrong. You're not seeing what I see. You're not knowing what I know. You're not doing what I do. And I want you to see with a different set of eyes. And I was beginning to study and study and study. And I said, I was so scatterbrained and so confused. I said, Lord. And he says, go to 2 Kings, chapter 6, verse 15. He says, and I want to talk to you for a minute. I said, okay, Lord, I'm going to go to 2 Kings, chapter 6, verse 15. And when the servant of the man of God arose early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, alas, my master, what shall we do? Let me set the scenario for you. Now, Elisha here is running from the enemies. He's riding from the enemy. And the army comes and surrounds the city that he's in. And they're going to attack the city. They're going to attack Elisha. And his servant comes out and he says, oh, the enemy is here. What are we going to do? We're surrounded by the enemy. What are we going to do? Verse 16 says, so he answered, do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. There are more with us than there are with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Now, I read that, open his eyes that he may see. Now, obviously, he stepped out of the tent and he saw the army of the enemy. He saw the army of the enemy. So then he says, what are we going to do? And the master comes out, Elisha comes out, and he says, there are more with us than there are against us. And he lays his hands on his servant. He says, I pray that his eyes be opened. Now, obviously, his eyes work fine if he saw the enemy from afar. But then the man of God comes and says, I pray that his eyes may be opened, that he may see. And then he goes on to say, then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. You know what upsets me, Uncle Juan, is that I don't even know the servant's name. I don't know his mom and dad. I don't know what he did for a living. I don't know how many children he had. But he was lucky enough to be with the man of God that his spiritual eyes would be opened. And I said, Lord, here I am. I'm praying to you that you would open my eyes. And you know what he said? He says, shut your eyes and open them. But he says, isn't that how God works? You want to go up, you got to humble. Yeah. You want to receive, you've got to give. You want to live, you have to die. You want to see, you have to close your eyes. Now, I'm a realist. I don't want to sell you a fairy tale. This hurts. The people that are in this audience today, they're hurting with real pain. Real pain. Now, there are some that maybe I don't know about. Maybe your rent's past due. Maybe your plates are past due. Maybe your insurance is due. Maybe you have court coming up. And that hurts. That's painful. So there's real pain going on. And I'm wanting to solve your painful problems with with physical eyes instead of seeing with spiritual eyes. And you know what's funny about Brother Jerry is that he's in jail while his son is being born. His son was sick and taken from the mom, and she wasn't able to see him until later that night. They're still in the hospital. Keep them in prayer. And I thought back to when I was in jail, when Darren was born. He was born with his face up. So when he came out of the womb, his lungs were filled with fluid, and he had to be taken away from his mother. So I can identify with what Jerry's going through. Misty can identify with what his wife's going through. And if Darren remembers, he can remember what the baby's going through. The baby's name is AJ. And so maybe God put me through that situation just for this family. Maybe. But I'm not seeing with my physical eyes. I got to now open my spiritual eyes and see, what is God doing? What is God doing? So he opens up the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So at one moment we are looking with our physical eyes, and we see that the enemy is there to execute us. We see that the enemy is there to take us out. The enemy is there to come against us. And we close one set of eyes. We open another set of eyes, and we now realize that there are more for us than against us. There are chariots of fire surrounding the enemies that are surrounding us. So really we are on top instead of on bottom. We are first instead of last. We are the head and not the tail, but you have to see with your spiritual eyes. Now, I can imagine the servant seeing the enemy surrounding him. How scared he must have been. To wake up in the morning and think, man, what a beautiful day. The birds are chirping, the sun is shining. What a beautiful day. I got a good night's rest. I'm here with the prophet. And he steps out of the tent, and now he's surrounded by his enemies. How he must have been so scared. How he must have been so afraid and so frightened. And in a moment, the prophet comes out and says, wait a minute now. First he told him, there are more for us than against us. Then he showed him. I think, church, that we are transferring. We are transferring from being told that God is doing something to be shown that God is doing something.
Amen.
And we